we're learning this afternoon of a surge in the number of people choosing to draft a will during this pandemic. Most Australians have a will, around 60%, and about 20% plan to make one. To explore this issue further, I'm pleased to welcome Morgan Solomon to the show from Solomon Hollett Lawyers. Good afternoon.
Oh, good to be with you.
Now, it's always on the to-do list, but what would prompt people to make a will at the moment?
Well, there's no question we've seen a huge rise in enquiries for people wanting to make their will and do their estate planning. And I think with COVID-19, people are contemplating their mortality a bit. There's also, without question, a lot of people who are self-isolating and who are out of work and who are working from home who simply have more time on their hands to contemplate this sort of thing. People who might have been commuting now finding they're having time to think about what's really more important for them. There's a lot of a global shift, I think, of people who are asking the big questions around what's really most important to me, and family, I think, is coming first.
Yeah, absolutely. And on that note, why do we need a will?
Well, without one, you simply have no say on what happens to your worldly wealth, whether that's large or small. It will be carved up according to a strict formula contained in a piece of law called the Administration Act. But essentially, it divvies up your assets according to what family you leave behind, and if you leave no family, then it will go to the state. Obviously, this can create some pretty unexpected results, and sometimes tragic ones for family that are left out in the cold, Louise.
Yeah, absolutely. How do we make a proper, legally watertight document?
Oh, well, you know the answer I'm going to give is to see a good lawyer on this, but it's true. This area has become increasingly complex in recent years, and our lives are more complex. Our family dynamics are more complex. We have stepchildren and blended families, de facto partners, dependent grandchildren. All these things add to the complexity, and not only that, but we also have assets that we own outside of wills that need to be taken care of. So the best advice I can give is see a good estate planning lawyer, there's a lot of them out there, and start the conversation around what sort of legacy you might want to leave.
Okay, you talked about seeing a lawyer to get one drafted, but what about the DIY wills? I know they're not as watertight as one that's made by a lawyer, but money for a lot of people an issue at the moment. Do you think it's better to have something rather than nothing? In
almost all cases, I'm going to say it's better to have something rather than nothing. However, I have seen a lot of DIY wills, and a lot of them are only marginally better than nothing. But for those, and there are a lot of people self-isolating in quarantine and who cannot afford it, who can't get to see a lawyer, then yes, a DIY will is better than nothing, and at least gives you a fighting chance of having your outcome.
Good advice. Morgan Solomon, thank you for joining us on the program this afternoon.
My pleasure.